Let's now look at the data definition language. We have seen about select. Now we'll see the data definition language, which revolves around the objects. So first we need to understand what's an object. A table is an object. We'll see that. Generally, when you, as far as Oracle is concerned, data definition language, when you say that, the first thing which comes to mind is the table, the creation of tables, and that is where the data gets stored. So basically, it's almost like once you say data definition language, it refers to the table part. But there are more others as well. You can have the procedures, you can have triggers, the indexes, and so on and so forth. So there are many things are considered as, all these are considered as objects. We'll see that. So the create table is one. After that, there is an important topic related to the creation of the tables, that is the constraints. We will see that as well. Very important, the constraint, because that is where all your relationship, because of this unique constraints which is in place, you have the complete database design in place. You'll have entity relationship diagrams and entity relationship diagram. Then because of the entity relationship diagram, you have the tables being derived out of the entity relationship diagram as well. So constraint plays a critical role as far as the database is concerned. So as I said, when you say the database object, you have tables, you have views, which is kind of it doesn't have a storage on its own, because table is where the data gets stored. View is basically, as the name suggests, it's just a viewing of the view of a table, how you want to present the data, which is residing maybe in multiple tables you have, and you present it through a view. Sequence, index, synonyms, many things. Even procedures are considered as procedures. Is ideally, if you are already into programming, you would have heard about procedures, functions. All are treated as objects in the database. So this is a syntax: create table, table name with the columns, with different columns. So create table, department name, the name, location, create date. So date as our default is date. So which means whenever you insert a column into this table, it's going to have a create date with a default sys date. So this is basically this will create a simple table. And now coming into constraint enforce rules at the table level. Constraint enforce consistency and integrity of the database. Say for example, ideally in any organization, the employee ID is going to be unique. There is going to be only, though the names may be same person, a different person can have, say for example, I'm just taking Anthony. It's quite a common name, Anthony. You might have 10 Anthonys, but the employee ID is going to be unique, and that is enforced through the constraint. Maybe you have a primary key for the employee ID, so which is unique and not null. We'll see that. So that way it is unique, and if any employee need to have an employee ID. Without an employee ID, employee cannot exist in an organization. So it needs to be unique, and it has to be not null. So naturally that is called the primary key. So it can be not null. It need not, some of them can be not null. That means some data needs to be there. Let's say name of the person, first name, last name. It cannot be null. There need to be a name for a person, but that name need not be unique. As I said, Anthony, you can have many Anthonys in a company, so it can be not null, but it need not be unique. So when they combine together, that is not null and unique, you have a primary key, and then foreign key is what it references. Ideal example could be department is referred, department ID is a primary key in department table, and it will be a foreign key in the employee table. So because that references, unless there is a department ID residing in the department table, you cannot insert a value into the employee table for a department. As an example, if there is 110 is a department of marketing, this if you want to have an employee assigned to 110, which is the marketing department, there need to be in the department table, it needs to be there need to be data which says 110 marketing department. Without that, you cannot have an employee inserted into the employee table with 110 marketing with a name. So it references the department table that, when you have an employee assigned to an department. So check is particularly example could be salary. Salary cannot be 0, some value needs to be there. So that's basic about the constraint, because by itself you need to spend time on constraint, understand it better. We'll progress further in detail about the constraints in the subsequent presentation. Thank you. Let's now look at more into constraints. So, I mean, there are two types of constraint. One is the column level. The other one is we call it table level constraint. But ideally speaking, the way the functionality works, there is no much difference, but except the syntax differs. And in case of table level constraint, you can have the multiple columns involved instead of a single column. So if it's for a single column, you can mention it as a column level constraint. For a table level constraint, you can have multiple column, and syntax differs. Functionality, almost both are same. So those are two types of constraint for the tables, and apart from the primary and foreign key constraint. So again, whatever we discussed, that is what is mentioned. You create a constraint either at a column level or a table level. Constraint are included when the column is defined. Table constraints are defined at the end of the table and must refer to columns or columns. I mean, when you have more than one of the column is referred, then you can have that through the table level constraint instead of a column level constraint. Mainly syntax difference, otherwise functionality, column level and the table level are same, that we had discussed earlier as well. So this is an ideal example. You have a constraint name, primary key, constraint name is over here, employee underscore employee ID, pk primary key, or you can have it at the table level. The first one refers to the column level, the next one refers to the table level constraint. Unique constraint, I mean, ideally when you have the email ID, then you have it as a unique constraint. Unique is meaning unique meaning it needs to be unique. I mean, name should be, names can be a unique name. So that is what is unique constraint is all about. So here if you see J Smith allowed, and again if you try to insert another one with J Smith, it's not allowed because it's already existing. So uniqueness is not there, so it is not allowed. So email ID of an employee need to be unique. You can't have two employee ID with the same email ID. So that needs to be unique. So ideally, it's a good technique, because by chance, by overlooking it, if you try to enter for a person the same email ID, because emails are confidential, and when you have some kind of a programming, maybe with front end or back end, front end meaning any of the third party application, be it Python or be it with any of the JavaScripting or Java, when you refer to an email, when it reads the table and two employees are going to have a same email ID, then the confidentiality will be lost if the message is sent to both the two different employee ID. Take for example, if it's a payslip, and payslip is a confidential information. If you are going to send the same payslip details to both the person, then yeah, it's a huge violation. So that's where you define a unique constraint, meaning, and for one employee, the email ID should be unique. Next one is the critical one, the primary key. So in the department ID will be the primary key. Primary key should be unique, not only unique, should be not null as well. So which means not null meaning you need to have an employee ID. You cannot just insert a null value into it. So that's where when you try to enter an information with department name, manager ID and all, and if it is going to be not null, it will throw you an error. And if it is trying to insert the same value, not allowed, because uniqueness is not there. So a primary key needs to be unique and not null. And if you look at the department table, it could be, that's a primary key, and an employee table can refer it. So what's a primary key? Primary key constraint create a primary key for the table, and only one primary key is created for each table. And so it's a column, a set of columns uniquely identify each rows in the table. Constraint enforces uniqueness of the column or column combination, ensures that no column, the part of the primary key, contain a null value. So this diagram gives you a good reference. So you have a department table, and in the employee table you have 10 inserted, which references, which is a primary key in the department table. Here it's a foreign key. That means if you're trying to, for example, if you're trying to insert this employee with 200 Ford and with 9 in it, then it does not exist because 9 does not exist in the department table. So there is a violation because foreign key violation is there. If you try to insert into the employee table with 9, it's not allowed, because in the department table it is not there, so it is not allowed. But if you have 60, you have 60 department IDs here, so it is allowed. But the point to note here is it will have a constraint challenge, because 200 on the generally on the employee table, employee ID will be a primary key on this table. So in that case, it needs to be unique, it needs to be not null. 200 is already there, so this will not get allowed. You need to have some other value like 215 or 220. Plus 4 is fine, 60 is fine, because 60 is there in the department table, because it references the department table, because this is a here it's a reference or foreign key in the employee table as far as the department ID is considered, whereas the employee ID is a primary key of the employee table. So that's about the foreign key and primary key. The foreign key or a reference integrity constraint designates a column or combination of columns as a foreign, establishes a relationship with the primary key or unique key in the same table or in the different table. Rather than the same table, it's going to be generally it's going to be on a different table. So like employee and department. So guidelines must match an existing value in the parent table. It needs to match with the parent table. Foreign key are based on data values and purely logical rather than physicals or pointers. So this is how you define a foreign key. Constraint, it says constraint name, foreign key, department ID, references the department table, department ID. So constraint is, as far as, again, the last one is the unique email, but as far as the department key or the department ID, the foreign key as in the employee table will be something like constraint, then constraint name, foreign key, department ID, references department within the parenthesis department ID. So that's about the foreign key. Foreign key defines a column in the child table at the table level constraint. References identifies the table column of the parent table. On delete, cascade deletes the dependent rows in child table with the row of parent table. Sometimes you want to delete the complete constraint, then you can issue on delete cascade as well. So check constraint, as I said, this is critical, particularly when you don't want a salary. Maybe you have a minimum salary of $2,000 US, then you can mention salary should not be when you define. a table itself, you say constrain employee sal mil. For the salary column, after the salary column, constrain employee sal mil. Check salary greater than 2500. That means if you try to insert a value less than 2500, it is not going to allow you. So this is as far as the table teach employee. We have primary key, not null, ename cannot be not null, varchar number 68, and here department number is not null, constraint admin, references department ID. So ideally you need to have a department department table defined or created, and then follow it with the employee table. And when you update some value, and again department 55 does not exist when it says, then because you are trying to update the employee table with 55, because 55 doesn't exist in the department table, it doesn't allow you, because it is something like where you're trying to update the employees. Instead of 110, you are suppose that all the employees gets transferred from 110 to 55, then you could issue an update statement. But before doing that, in the department table there need to be a department data record already inserted. Say for example, a new department due to digital transformation has been created. So all the employees, earlier employees with some other department related to software division is moved into that. In that case, you have to update the employees table, all the employees with department ID 110 to 55. But 55 needs to be there available in the department table. The first step is you need to define department number 55 as digital transformation and then attempt this update. Otherwise, this is going to give you an error violating integrity constraint, parent key not found. And cannot delete a row that contains a primary key that is used as foreign key in the another table. Delete department where department ID is 60. So child record found, you're trying to attempt parent key, so delete the dependency to disable the constraint. So ideally there are because here in this case employees, in the employees table there is going to be some department IDs as 60, then it cannot violate it, because in the employee table 60 is still present and it is referring to the department table. That's where there is child record is found. Attempted to delete a parent key that has a foreign dependency. So delete dependencies first, then parent, and disable the constraint. So that's about we have seen about. It's also possible to create a table through a subquery. This is how it gets created. Create table department 80. I select. So suppose if you want to have a separate table from a subquery, you could do that as well. So that's about. So thank you. We'll progress with the other commands, particularly like alter command in the subsequent presentation. Thank you. Let's now look at some of the hands-on on the data definition language, that is creation of the table and describe the table, the PT. So all these are pretty simple. Then you create a constraint and then a primary constraint you can create as a column level, then just as a table level. If you want to practice, you could do that. This one I just wanted to run through. This is the foreign key plus the primary key. You have a department table is created and then employee table, and the employee table references the department number of the department table. So the department number, if you look at it, it's a primary key over here, and here it references in the employee table, it references the department number. So I just want to create this and then show you something over here. So first is, let's create, because you need to create this table first, because the employee table references this table. So if you are creating the employee table first, then it will show you the table does not exists because it is trying to reference this table, department table. So you need to create the department table. Whichever table has a reference for a particular column, that need to be created later post creation of the table which has that particular column, because department number is over here. So we will create that first. So it's running. Since it is the cloud, it will take a little bit of time, because based out of this one is based out of a different location. So department table is created, and then you have got to create the employee table. So next one is the employee table. So here, if you look at it, department number is the foreign key and references department table, department number. This is again just I have included check constraint. There is unique for email. So let's execute this one as well. So this is also created. So if you say describe table department, so this is there, and then describe employee 4. So this is also there. So it is table is created. So I just wanted to show in a kind of a ER diagram. We can do that with SQL developer, again in a data modeler format. So import this we have seen earlier also. So let's once again see this data dictionary. Choose whichever one is there. So let me go to files, data modeler, import a data dictionary, select this one, then next we want to have admin one. Next, these are the two tables, employee department. Next, and finish. This is fine. Merge. So this is what I just wanted to, because the two tables we have created, and if you see that it gives you F relates to the foreign key and P relates to the primary key, and you have a join condition. Employee department foreign key is what is mentioned over here, and this references the department, and you have a, that means this can have there could be in this table, there could be n number of department employee. A department can have multiple employees, but here in this case the department number is unique over here. Department only employee is unique over here. So even yeah, just a correction. So employee ID, we have not given any kind of a primary key. That's where if you look at this one, it does not assign P over here. Whereas for the department number, we have specified while creation of the department table, we had made it as primary key. So that's where it is showing P and foreign key, whereas in the employee table, this is the foreign key. So here it is. So you have primary key in the department table, and whereas employee ID we have not made as primary key, and whereas we just wanted to show that the references, that is a foreign key relationship, and we have the constraint email need to be unique, that is where it is mentioned as U. Of course, for salary we just have a check constraint, so that is what is there. So this way it's a kind of a pictorial representation in a data model format. So that is the flexibility you have when you use the SQL developer. So you can practice the others, like for example in this table it is primary key. So if you are creating this table, then yeah, the employee 2 tables will have a primary key, whereas employee 4, as per the script, we have not designed any primary key. Thank you. Stay tuned.